Hasan Minhaj and his form of stand-up comedy has just come to light that there's a difference between embellishment and straight up lying.
Right.
And that he is someone who, marginalized communities saw as a storyteller whose life we can relate to and the things that he's gone through. And it's come to light that a lot of them just didn't even happen.
Yeah, things that he presented as though they're true have been fabricated.
Yeah. So that's where I guess a lot of people are like debating whether or not, one being a storyteller and the other one being a comedian, like how do you get away with things like that? Like, what's your opinions like on the matter?
Yeah. I think some of it boils down for me to audience expectations. Are you aware of what they're thinking when they come into the room and what they're anticipating, right? And I think some of this also matters a great deal of what's the tone, what's the content of your message. He's talking about things as though they happened to his daughter, very serious things.
Yeah.
And then that's not true. That feels first of all exploitative of his own child, and inappropriate to pull people's emotions from that. And interestingly, not for the sake of a punchline per se, right? And that's different, very different for me than a 5-minute stand-up actor and you got a joke about, I went on a date last week. And no, you didn't go on a date last week. Your friend went on this date 3 years ago, but you're yanking the story. It's a totally different thing, because he's constructing it as though this was his lived experience, and so that there are very clear takeaways. And his justification seems to be, but the emotional truth is there.
Yeah,
and I think that's where people start to break it down.
And I think one of the points that I heard a lot of TikTokers make about Hasan Minhaj doing this, fabricating stories, is that marginalized people already have a hard time being believed about the sort of things that happen to us. So when you have someone completely fabricating a story, it makes it harder for us to tell our stories. And people are like, did that really happen to you? Did it really happen like that? Are you making it up?
Yeah. Are you sure that that's what he said? Are you sure that's what he meant to say?
Yeah.
Maybe you misunderstood him.
All the gaslighting situations.
Yeah.
So somebody as big as Hasan Minhaj, like all his specials are now bringing to question, like, for other people too, because once one of us does something wrong, we all do something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And the article raises that this isn't a new problem, right? This has come up before with all sorts of artists in the storytelling and comedy world. And people seem to do it for different reasons and justify it in different ways. But I think let's bring it back like really, really local, right? At First Person Arts, we are understanding that our storytellers are telling true stories as they happen.
Yeah.
And it would be a breach of trust if it turns out that somebody who's been on our stage has been fabricating something or exaggerating intentionally in ways that are dishonest for it. And so there's a part of me that says, okay, Hasan Minhaj, like, I understand that you're a big name performer, that, I got to take things with kind of a grain of salt, but still he's relying on the audience believing it to be true.
Yeah.
Right. And this has come up. I was also going to note that there's a parallel there for David Sedaris, who for a long time I understood as a writer who was always factually presenting things.
Okay.
And then over time he was like, obviously I'm exaggerating. Obviously my sister didn't exactly say it like that.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's, but people believed you.
Yeah.
And it's a very different thing than like, a Marvel movie where you better not believe.
Yeah. And that's, like for myself, like I'm a stand-up comedian who does a lot of stuff about growing up on documentaries.
Your real life.
Yeah. So while, there might be some embellishment of like, how much my mom yelled at me or how much my mom scared me with ice, there is a truth that, she did scare me with ice. I did have a hard time finding status. I still
It's a good thing you're wearing a sweater,
Yeah, it's a good thing I'm wearing a sweater,
Real Che heads now.
Yeah. So, Chaniacs, that's what we're going to call it.
Chaniacs. Oh, I like that.
Chaniacs, no.
Ben likes it too.
Approval from Ben over there.
Liked it a lot.
But then I never want people to walk away from it going, is this guy really going through a undocumented experience like that? Because I know there's a lot of people out there who what I talk about, they see themselves reflected in it.
Exactly.
So I do take responsibility in the work that I do with my art.
Yeah, and keeping it like super local is for my own creative journey. Right, I was doing true storytelling way before I did anything like stand up, and I had to really think like how much. In a stand-up act, do I want to veer from the truth?
Yeah.
And then what are other spaces where you can be in that gray area and everybody's comfortable with that? I don't have any great answers for that, by the way. But it does just kind of raise the question for a lot of people of do you want to be fully believed? And if so, are you willing to tell the truth?
Yeah. It's the relationship you want to have with your audience. I've learned. Even through my TikToks, I do a lot of news reports, and people do develop a relationship with you, with the artist, and you've got to respect that relationship. I mean, if you are somebody who just makes up stories, let them in a way know that, hey, when they come see you, you're gonna see a lot of goofy made up stories, and there's nothing wrong with being like, hey, I make up goofy stories or tell this. But if people come to you for the emotional and to relate to you in a way that they see themselves reflected in you, yeah, you have to treat that with respect.
Yeah.